Thank you, Madam Chair, and to all the witnesses. We really appreciate your testimony and the discoveries you're sharing with us today. I would also like to congratulate you, all of you, on the receiving the Diamond Achievement Award this week at the National Science Foundation Awards Gala, and so I commend you for that. Dr. Bauman, I have a question that relates to the importance of the opportunity you had to do research at such a young age and had a career as a scientist. I think you conducted some imaging research at Purdue University while you were still in high school. So would you care to elaborate on that?
Sure. So I actually got a job at a lab at Purdue University when I was in the summer after 11th grade, partly because I had kind of stumbled upon a class taking a computer science class in high school, which I had never really thought about taking, but I took on a whim, and because of that, I had an interest because I understood this new language of computing. A professor there, Professor Edward Delp, invited me to help his graduate students in the lab there that summer. And that was the first time I had exposure to real research, to imaging, and the kind of the exciting world of imaging. And one thing that really grabbed me from that was being able to see the results. And I really loved being able to work on problems where you can visualize your results. And so from that, I kind of gained a love of imaging and images, and that drove me in my future, my path towards studying electrical engineering and computer science, computer vision, and eventually being on the Event Horizon Telescope project. So I think that spark of passion at a young age really brought me to where I am now. So I'm eternally grateful to my opportunities at Purdue for that.
Thank you. I guess my next question deals, maybe all of you might want to respond, but it's keeping with the theme that you had for the National Science Foundation Award. Do you have any recommendations on how we might ignite the STEMs, the spark that stimulated you to get into your profession, so that we can keep these students encouraged and excited and fulfilling that pipeline to have more researchers in the future? So, Dr. Corba, do you want to start with that?
Sure. Well, my own STEM spark was from watching a television show ages ago about neutron stars when they were first hypothesized as being responsible for certain phenomena that were being observed. And one of the MIT professors on the show talked about the energy that would be liberated if you dropped a marshmallow onto a neutron star. And I was so mesmerized by that concept. The next day, I was actually doing an education project in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I took a bus and went right down to MIT to meet that professor. And I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to work on this. And so for some reason, they gave me a job for the summer, and it all worked out. But so I really believe that you can have your inspiration from so many different places. And what the NSF is trying to do is fund curriculum projects that happen in schools, so computer science, in the classroom, and help wonderful teachers get more skills and stuff. But we also spend part of our portfolio, as I think you know, on informal science education. So money to museums and to television shows about science. So there has to be a myriad of ways of reaching out and trying to inspire people to know more about science and be attracted to it.
It's a wonderful question, and it's one that we are really focused on in the project. I think you've seen that this image and the pins you have in front of you really resonate with the public and scientists alike. It's a real opportunity to get people at a young age, which is really when you want to ignite that spark into science. Mine came about with a stint at a museum that I worked at, actually looking over animals. So I got into this through biology, if you can possibly believe that. So you never know where the spark is going to ignite. But getting the outreach is really important for this. It's really important to get into museums, informal outreach, and also to invite the young people into labs in places where they can really do research.
I'm out of time, but the chairwoman has allowed me to go ahead and let the other two finish.
Thank you very much. Yes, well, my own spark was at a very early age also. Seems to be a bit of a consistent theme. I was looking up at the night sky when I was 5 years old and had a hunger to read all about it. My parents got me a telescope when I was like 8. And also at the same time, the US space program was taking off quite literally. And all of this was completely mesmerizing to me. And it set me on a course for life to pursue this type of work. And I see that in very tangible ways in what I'm doing now. My observatory, we have a fair amount of public outreach. And one form this takes, for example, is open houses. And just recently I held an open house where I was, for the first time, able to talk about the black hole result. And the children in the audience were by far, they were absolutely thrilled to pieces. And I got lots of questions afterwards, but the longest time and the most questions came from a 10-year-old. And I think that connecting the scientists who have the enthusiasm for the work with the young people, like 10-year-olds, who have minds that are sponges for information, that is incredibly potent. And that's been my experience throughout my work in public outreach.
Yeah, so I would say, throughout my early years, I had many different sparks, and I think having many opportunities to continue to grow that interest in science is so important, to have many different programs and opportunities. However, I want to highlight one that I had in 6th grade. My science teacher had us all enter the science fair. And this was the first time where I really did a science project that was outside of just your standard homework that you do. And I thought for ages about what I would work on, and I decided to work on what makes the best bread. So I actually baked probably hundreds of loaves of bread with different amounts of salt, different amounts of sugar, and different types of yeast. And I measured how big they rose and the taste. I even filled out IRB forms to have my friends taste the different bread. And that was a really fun experience, a wonderful experience. I entered it into the science fair in the area and won gold in my category. And that, I think, was my first true excitement where I knew research was a path for me.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bonamici.
Thank you very much, Chairman Johnson and Ranking Member Lucas, and thank you to all of our witnesses.